Episode 273, How to Calm Your Nervous System by Being Intentional, with Michele Reyes.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
In this episode, Heather is joined by Coach Michele Reyes for a powerful conversation about intentional living, nervous system regulation, mindset, and partnering with God to create a life of purpose. Michele shares the story behind her signature framework, the Intentionality Method, and explains how women can move from feeling like life is happening to them to becoming conscious creators of the life they want to live. This episode is full of practical wisdom for women who feel called to something more but need tools to help them access greater calm, resilience, and purpose. Please enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Well, I guess it's good morning when we're recording. I don't know what time it is of day when you guys are listening to it, any time of the day, but I am joined today by Coach Michele Reyes. Hey, Michele, how you doing?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. Michele has not been on the podcast before, and I love being able to talk with people that, I don't know, just a new conversation, a new face, and
Yeah.
I'm super happy to have you with me. But Michele, because you're new to a new face here, tell us a little bit about you so people can get to know you a little bit.
Happy to. I'm a mom of 7 and I am a master certified coach. I started my journey just in business in general when I was a young mother. I actually started with a photography business that then turned into me doing online marketing with partnering with a makeup company, actually. And then that led me to coaching. And I feel like I have found what I have always been meant to do. And so I got certified with the life coach school back in 2022 and have added additional certifications, including working with Leah Davidson, who I know was recently on the podcast here with her nervous system resilience training, which I absolutely loved. And then just this last fall, finished up a master certification with a woman named Edie Wadsworth with the Life Mentoring School. So it's wonderful to be a part of this world. I love that you've created this space for not only coaches to be together, but for coaches who share this common way of approaching coaching with faith as a part of it for LDS coaches. So I'm thrilled to be a part of this community and honored to be here on your podcast.
Well, thank you. It's such a privilege for me. It really felt like divine intervention for me to do this because it was not really on my radar. And I feel like it was a gift that was kind of handed my way. And anyway, so everybody that I meet here feels like a gift to me. And I appreciate you joining us here as well. So I also appreciate you sharing the different trainings you have had. I think most people know that anybody can call themselves a life coach,
Right.
and which makes it a very easy entry, right? And you also, that means then you don't always know what you're going to get. And I think that training is so important. I think that people need experience, and I feel like they need tools and they need education. And so everybody here is certified and trained well. And that's really important to me. I really appreciate you sharing with us your background, your education to getting here as a coach. As everybody knows, anybody can call themselves a coach, which is great, but also means that as people look for coaches to be influential and have an impact in their life, you don't always know what you're getting, and you don't always know that somebody has been well trained. And I do think that is very important for people to have good training, and that's really important. And all the coaches here have been trained well. And that's important to me. So I appreciate you sharing that here with us. I think it makes us a stronger community in general as well. So,
Agreed,
yeah.
agreed. And I have enjoyed all of the experiences I've gone through. My favorite part has been the way in which it's first changed me and
Mhm.
then made me better equipped to then help others. It's one of the philosophies I've heard that I agree with it, that we go first, that we get the training, we create the transformation within ourselves, and then we can then guide others to do the same. So I agree. Training and certifications are really important.
Yeah. And yes, you going first, us going first. Like we have to have the belief that it's possible. And if we haven't experienced it in our lives, we won't have that belief that what we are sharing with people is possible. And because they oftentimes don't think that change and transformation is really possible for them, someone has to have that belief in them. And oftentimes it gets to be us as a coach. Like we get to believe that it's possible for them. So it is important that we have that first. Well, thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate that. Can you tell us a little bit about the work you do? So I know you have a framework that you created that's called the Intentionality Method. I would love to hear more about that and learn maybe what inspired that for you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it begins with a quick story to back when I was in college. I was attending BYU. I got my bachelor's in marriage, family, and human development, and I was taking a course on family traditions and the importance of creating that in your home. But you have different memories that become kind of like those core memories in your life, and they kind of set a trajectory of, how you show up in your life. And I just remember this particular class when the professor was talking about how important family traditions were, and he talked about intentionality, and he compared it to a canoe going down a river and whether it had oars or not. And he talked about if we're not intentional, it's like floating down a river without any oars. And I just grabbed onto that. And from that time on, that has been something I've wanted to create in my life is intentionality, deciding what I want my life to look like, stepping out of, oh, life is happening to me and saying, how do I want my life to be? Where do I have control and agency to show up and create a life I love? And I've used that analogy as a way of explaining the framework that I share, which is called the Intentionality Method. So it's a three-part method, and you can picture this little canoe on a river, and you've got two different oars, and then you have a target or a destination at the end where you're going. Because even when you have oars, you could either just spin in circles or you could go back and forth. Like part of intentionality is defining where you want to go, knowing what you want to create and what success and fulfillment and purpose and joy looks like for you. So the two oars can be represented as first. The first part of being able to be intentional is being able to access our higher level of thinking. So if we use this analogy of the canoe and it floating down a river, there's three things that we need in order to be more intentional. And the first is to create calm so that we can access our higher level of thinking. If our nervous system is dysregulated and we're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, it's hard to access that higher level of thinking and choose thoughts that serve us. So it becomes the first step before even doing what we talk about often in coaching with mindset work. We first need to ground and regulate our nervous system. And and the thing that's been so fascinating to learn about and then help others see is that oftentimes when we think about being dysregulated, we think it's in these extreme moments or in trauma, like deep trauma moments, when really the nervous system is always at play. It shows up in every minute of the day because it's constantly running and scanning and deciding, are we safe? And if we feel any level of unsafety, then that higher level of thinking becomes less accessible, right? So that becomes the first most important part of then being able to take the next step of experiencing what I call a mindset makeover. And that's where we identify thoughts that might not be serving us and then begin to compassionately and curiously shift them to something that's going to serve us better. And when we have those two oars in our hand as we're rowing down this river, that target, that place we want to get to becomes that third part, which is becoming a conscious creator. Partnering with God to decide what are my God-given gifts? What are my spiritual gifts? What is a family life that I want to create? What is the relationships I want to develop? How do I want to put good in the world? How can I partner with God to live up to my full potential? So that third step is becoming a conscious creator and really stepping into that. I'm going to make things happen for me rather than have life happen to me. The whole intentionality method is about taking this ideal and making it a reality in your life and being equipped with tools so that you can actually be intentional in your life. And that doesn't mean that life goes smoothly. Rather, it means you know how to handle when the waters get rough or there's a rock in the downstream. It's just being able to navigate it and feel like you are in the driver's seat rather than just being tossed to and fro in life.
I love it. I love the phrase conscious creator. I think that in and of itself is so powerful just to kind of tuck into your pocket and just keep that mantra, like I'm a conscious creator in the back of our mind. But yes, to get there, there are some things that sometimes we have to clean up in order in our
Yes.
lives and
Yes.
calm down to calm and
Yes.
clean up in order to do that. My
Yeah.
family spends a lot of time whitewater rafting, and that, I don't know, analogy of the canoe and the oars and how you said it doesn't always mean that things are easy. Like we've rode through some pretty crazy rapids, but like through the power of those oars, like what you compared those two, what you want to, you can steer away from the things you want to avoid, the big rocks, the churning holes, the things that could be really detrimental to your safety. You learn you can do that if you have the oars in your hands and you're able to do it. So anyway, I think that's a really great analogy and just strong words that go along with it. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. You talked a little bit about the nervous system and we did have, you said Leah Davidson was on. Yes, she was on. I'm doing a training with her. It sounds like you've already done that training with her. It's like a fire hose. There's so much information. But I want to know from your perspective why the nervous system is such a central part to this method. You touched on it a little bit, but maybe you could expand on that for us.
Yeah, I think when we are in that survival mode, and again, survival mode can be in different degrees. It might even be just as simple as I gotta do this thing on my to-do list today, and like that's all you're focused on. I really see survival mode as just kind of a closed, narrow way of thinking rather than being able to think longer term. And there's times in which we need to do that. But I think if we're stuck in that survival mode because we feel unsafe because our nervous system is indicating that we're unsafe and we don't know how to answer it and reestablish that safety, then it keeps us from being able to take the next step of evaluating our thoughts and then stepping into that creator role. So the intentionality method, it begins with calming your body and then cleaning up your thinking, and then you create your life on purpose. So it really becomes that first step. And one I think we often miss or try to bypass, probably partly because of misunderstanding it. So that's why I think the work of understanding the nervous system is so essential to being able to take the next step.
Yeah. And, it's, I think, something important for people to understand. You talked about when your body feels unsafe. Oftentimes we think that has to mean that there's something big going on in our lives, or there was something big that happened in our life that caused us to feel unsafe. And really, the smallest, well, I shouldn't, that kind of quantifies it, but anything could make us feel unsafe because your brain doesn't really know the difference between physical safety and emotional safety. So just anytime, like you mentioned, the checklist, like I am a checklist person. And when I start my day and I see like a gazillion things on that list, that can feel a little unsafe for me. And you're right, like I can start to feel a little dysregulated. But I think it's important to recognize that it doesn't have to mean that we have big things going on in our lives. Things,
Big stresses.
yes,
Yeah.
big stresses. It we things make us feel unsafe that sometimes doesn't make sense to us, and that's okay. Like that is our body doing its job correctly.
Yeah. And another thing I add to that portion of the work that I do, I call it protective patterns. The first part of the intentionality method is identifying protective patterns and understanding them. And the nervous system is 100% housed under that. But along with that, tied closely to it, but also somewhat separate, is the motivational triad, which is that human instinct to avoid discomfort or pain, seek pleasure, and conserve energy. Is part of our human wiring. And I truly believe it's part of why God or how God created us. I believe it's how God created us because when we think about the plan that God has for us, the very first thing we need to do is to survive and stay safe. So it makes sense to me that he would wire us with these protective patterns because if we don't stay safe, if we don't survive, then the plan of salvation becomes frustrated. With premature death, we don't learn all the experiences that we need to. We don't create families or more children aren't brought to this earth. So it makes so much sense that we have these protective patterns. But what I try to help women see is we don't want to live by default, simply by those protective patterns. We need to understand them. We need to learn how to address them and answer them, reestablish that safety, move beyond the motivational triad. I think the women who are most intentional do the opposite of the motivational triad. They are willing to feel discomfort. They're okay with it. They have capacity to hold discomfort, like fear of being rejected, fear of being misunderstood, just that uncomfortableness that our brain, our nervous system might deem as unsafe and thus we might die from it. They're able to do that. They have capacity for that. They're willing to delay gratification instead of go for just what's pleasurable in the moment. And then they're willing to expend energy, not just conserve it. Intentional women understand these protective patterns. They appreciate it. They see it. They do honor it as necessary, but we don't want to just live by those default patterns. And once we understand that and learn how to answer it, again, then we can take the next step of the mindset piece and then the creator piece.
I actually was talking with one of my clients just about that yesterday. She was bringing up somebody in her life who had been frustrating for her in the fact that they didn't seem to be too motivated to live a life that was anything uncomfortable, like meaning
Yeah.
they didn't want to live a life that could help them create what this person knew they were capable of doing. And she's like, I don't understand that, why people can be okay with, sitting on the couch and not doing a whole lot in their life. And at the risk, I'm not trying to pass judgment or sound judgmental, but I helped her see that typically the people who are able to do uncomfortable things, put themselves out in the world, are people who have expanded their ability to experience
Yeah.
discomfort.
Yeah.
They have learned how to be resilient. They have learned how to recognize, oh yeah, this feels uncomfortable because it's not what my body is really wired to want to do, but it also doesn't mean I should stop, and it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. It just means I get to learn how to experience this emotion and feel uncomfortable and do the things that I want to do. I'll be okay. So the more we can broaden our ability to feel those things, the more we become capable of, like you said, living that intentional life, being a
Yeah.
conscious creator.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we understand these protective patterns, not only are we able to answer them, but it honestly, I feel like it creates a lot of compassion for
Yes,
ourselves and actually for
other
others.
people.
So when I hear about, someone maybe just staying on the couch and not being motivated, I'm like, oh, I know what's going on. It's those
Yep.
protective patterns. And so it creates a lot of compassion because of understanding of why we do what we do. And then we can offer that to ourselves. And when we feel that sense of validation and being understood, then it opens the door for being able to move beyond that, going into the mindset makeover and then the conscious creator stage.
Yeah, I appreciate that you brought up the compassion side of it because I have really seen that to be true for me in my
Yeah.
life. Like it's offered me so much more compassion for myself and for other people in just understanding the why behind so many things.
Right.
So I think part of broadening that scope, that ability for us to experience things that are uncomfortable and continue to consciously create is learning, like you said, to calm and to regulate. How, like maybe you could expand on that. Like how can we do that? How do we calm and how do we regulate that so that we can move forward? And why does that then how does that directly support us being able to live intentionally?
Yeah. Well, I think the quick single sentence answer is when we do that, when we calm and ground ourselves, we can access our higher level of thinking. And when I tie this to the gospel, I think about our agency and how we want to use our agency to its fullest in the best way. And it's one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. And if we are just living by those protective patterns, that default way of living, I picture that being acted upon by protective patterns rather than acting according to our higher level of thinking. So, really being able to establish that sense of regulation and grounding and calm gives us greater access to our agency. And it's just like any other, it's a system of our body, right? It's our nervous system. We have our skeletal system and our muscular system and our digestive system. And we understand ways in which we, create a healthy digestive system. We need to have good gut health. We need to eat certain things. And, we understand that in our muscular system. We need to exercise it. And to understand that the nervous system is in the same way, something that we need to continually take care of and work on and doing some foundational practices. It's something I call the daily ground. It's an acronym for these foundational practices that we can do regularly. And none of them are surprises or new or things you haven't heard before. It's things like getting good quality sleep, understanding the importance of sleep, the early morning sunshine, movement, connection. We're wired for connection. The more that we're connected with God, with ourselves, with others, the more regulated and calm we can feel. We don't feel like we're spinning out. The nurturing piece of both body and spirit, and then learning to de stress and add little bits of healthy stress so that capacity can increase. Because really, that's the goal when it comes to being more intentional, being more grounded. My program is called Made for More, and it's not about adding more to your to-do list or being busier. It's about having greater capacity, more ability to be compassionate, understanding, patient, holding space so that you can respond rather than react. It's really is about expanding capacity to do hard things and to show up as that best version of ourselves.
Okay, so I grabbed on to one of the phrases you mentioned in there. It was healthy stress. And I'm going to bet that there's some people listening going, "Oh, like for me, there is no form of healthy stress. It's all very uncomfortable." Can you tell us what you mean by healthy stress? What does that mean to you?
So you know how we have this motivational triad that says seek pleasure, avoid discomfort. It's intentionally putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations that creates a little bit of dysregulation. Now, we're not going to do something that throws us into anything extreme, but I think of little things like going and talking to someone, introducing yourself, or some of the health things. Like I personally, some people are like, how do you do this, Michelle? I take cold showers unless I'm washing my hair, and then I finish with a cold shower. And that gives me an opportunity to remind my mind and my body it's okay. Nothing's gone wrong. You are safe. So being able to create little moments like that where you can learn to regulate again. And then again, it's about increasing capacity to handle hard emotions, difficult situations, learning to be resilient, learning to be able to come back to that grounding. And so that's what the healthy stress is all about.
Okay. I'm laughing because you could not have used a better example of stress than a cold shower. Because to me, that would be like the worst thing I could do. A cold shower. In fact, today when I was getting out of the shower, I thought to myself, this is the worst part of my day is stepping out of this really hot shower into the colder air. So anyway, that was a very timely.
What's so funny about that comment is as I've done it more and more, and my shower doesn't get all that cold, but I've been in showers where it gets almost like freezing temperatures. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, how do I get this into my house? But it's so uncomfortable. And then you step out of the shower and it feels magical. And I'm like, discomfort one place or the other. And that's kind of the
That's
idea and the
true.
point of everything we talk about. You choose your discomfort, you choose your hard. Because as a lot of coaches talk about, life is 50-50. And are you going to experience the discomfort right now of getting up and listening to your alarm and putting on your workout clothes and going for that run or whatever it is you do so that later on you don't have the discomfort of an unhealthy body? It's choosing your hard, right? And so it's just a little practice to be able to remind myself that you do the hard either at the beginning or at the end. And a lot of times the goodness comes when we intentionally do the discomfort to begin with. And, I'm not saying anybody has to take a cold shower, but it's the principle behind it I'm trying to
Yeah.
express.
Well, I think the combination of your cold shower and my sharing that like the worst part of my day is getting out of the hot shower perfectly displays what you just said, right? Like you are choosing the uncomfortable first and then the discomfort. And I have done the exact opposite. Mine for me is like, give me all the comfort and then it's
Yeah.
miserable to get out. Anyway, I think that was great. I would love to know as you work with your clients, what areas do you most often see women wanting to be more intentional?
Yes. I often see it, of course, in motherhood, in family relationships. And really, I love seeing women just light up and gravitate to this idea that they feel like they're called to more. They feel like they're made for more. And whether that's just creating something more beautiful in their home or feeling like I've got goodness to offer the world, whether that's in a business or just in becoming more active in their community or becoming a voice for a cause that is important to them or whatever it might be. It's just them feeling like they have um, these spiritual gifts or this personal mission of sorts that they feel like they want to live up to. Or we desire to coach people that are like ourselves, right? They're on a similar journey as us. And so I get lit up thinking that there are women out there who are like me, who desire to put good in the world, who want to be good mothers, who see that there's goodness out there and they want to learn about it and grow from it. And yet they find themselves falling short every once in a while. And honestly, I feel like the biggest indicator of the goodness of the tools that I teach and share is that I use them in my life to create, like I apply it. It's not just something I put on the shelf. It's actually something I employ all the time. And it's helping me grow, helping me live up to where I feel like I'm made for more. And I just want to grab a beautiful community of women to come along with me. And so really it's just wherever they feel that kind of divine call to improve or to grow and become that better version of themselves.
Your title, Made for More, really resonates with me. I just really have this deep belief that we were each made with everything that we need inside of us. Like God has blessed us with all the divine gifts, all the things that we need to be and live our life to the fullest. And the problem is that we just don't see it. And I think like that phrase, like made for more, really helps us see that it's all there. Like we were made to be able to be more than we think we can be. And we just our daily job is just to go about discovering those parts in us that we can't see or that we've covered up and to create them and to bring them out into the world. So I think that's really
Yeah.
inspiring to me.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's being able to see where you're made for more, but I also feel like it's being equipped with tools to be able to access that version of ourselves. And that's why it comes down to the intentionality method, these actual tools where it's like, I want to be more intentional. I want to show up as this better version of myself. I feel like I'm made for more, but how do I get there? How do I actually create that? It's these helpful tools to bring into your life, to incorporate, to develop a skill for so that you can be more intentional in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's hard to discover those things inside of us unless we find, and I mean, I feel like our heavenly parents guide us to the things that we need,
Mhm.
to those tools that we need, right? Like to help us
Yeah.
discover what's in us. To me, I feel like that's what daily repentance is discovering those things that help us to have a new perspective. Repentance to me, I hardly ever use that word. I just always use the phrase a new perspective, like I'm seeking a new perspective. And to me, those tools that we find are all things that help us to have a new perspective. They are part of our daily repentant process and helps us to uncover all those things that we've kind of hidden up. So, yeah, I agree. Tools are so important.
And if I want to, you know, piggyback off of that comment and repentance, I see repentance as coming closer to the Savior, like
Mhm.
pivoting closer towards Him. And so when I think about working with women of faith who want to be more intentional and giving them tools, it to me, it truly is leaning fully into the belief that we are made, that we're daughters of God, made for eternal progression. And here are some things I can offer you that can help you live up to that divine potential that much more, live your faith more fully, show up as that better version of yourself, show up more intentionally. And one of the questions I love asking myself, and I encourage my clients to ask themselves in any situation, is who do I want to be right now? How do I want to show up here? What what energy do I want driving me? Meaning what feeling do I want? Do I wanna come from this determined, rigid state, or do I wanna come from love or understanding or compassion? And, just being able to develop skills that create a pause that allows you to use your agency to choose, how am I going to show up in this moment, in this phase of life, in this situation, in this relationship, in whatever area you're at. And that is what it means to be intentional, is having the capability to use your agency to choose how you're going to show up in micro moments of your life, but also in these culmination kind of moments, what you've created at the end of different phases of life or the life legacy we live, whatever it might be.
Yeah. As you watch your clients work through your program, what do you feel like makes your program truly transformative for the women who go through it?
It's giving them the know-how, the tools, like I mentioned. And, whenever you're offering a program, offering a service or a program, you want to give people something to take away when they're at the end of it. And so I've intentionally created for each of the phases of the intentionality method something that they're going to take away. So the first part with identifying protective patterns is having a game plan for how you are going that makes sense for you, how you're going to do the daily ground, how you're going to respond, having these go to methods of creating calm for yourself when you find yourself dysregulated, being able to notice them. So it's really equipping yourself with a personalized plan of how to create calm in your life. That's the first thing they receive. And then the second with the mindset makeover is we together through these 12 weeks of coaching seek to identify kind of that overarching thought, that default thing, that default thought that you often go back to, and then we make shifts and change that way of you seeing yourself that might be holding you back from being able to create more in your life. And then in the conscious creator part of the program, you identify a specific area where you feel like you're made for more. And whether that's something you can accomplish in that last part of the program within those 4 weeks, or if it's something that's more long term, you have a clear vision and plan for how you're going to carry that out moving forward. And being able to feel like I have the tools that I need in order to show up intentionally in this way. And it's beautiful because even if you have a specific focus, all of these tools impacts every area of your life, all of your relationships, all of the ways in which you want to show up in your faith and if you in your community and just all the different ways. So it really is just these beautiful skills and tools that help us in multiple ways.
So through those 3 different areas, what kind of shifts or results have you seen in your clients? What have you seen them experience? Or what can women who want to do this program, what can they expect to experience?
It's my favorite when I check in with my clients. I have my 12-week coaching program, but then I have a follow-up membership because this is a lifelong journey of growing and becoming, and there's only so much you can teach in 12 weeks. I do additional trainings and they have additional help to coaching and it's my favorite thing to hear them share what's going on and hear them be able to respond quicker and more intentionally. They realize their emotions aren't as heightened anymore. They didn't stay stuck as long. They can see just that progress and that growth. And, that's been true in my life and in my client's life. And I for sure don't preach this is going to fix you and you're going to handle life like perfectly after this. But it is about that greater resilience, being able to not spin out or spiral down, being able to return to calm quicker, being able to just be more aware of the thoughts that you're choosing. So it really is of not having these heightened emotions or these long periods of being stuck. So you just see that progress and it's so beautiful.
Because the reality is those protective patterns don't go away. Like, I've seen this in my life, right? Like, I've equipped myself with many tools and work on things daily. But I see those patterns still coming back, but they don't, like, to your point, they're not as debilitating to me as they used to
Right.
be, right?
Right.
Like, I am able to recognize them, see them, acknowledge them, and also, okay, now this is what I do with that, and I can move forward. Because, like, you'll figure it out in one area of your life, and then, well, now here it is in this area of my life. It's the same pattern, but this time I know what to do with it because
Right.
I have.
Right.
So it's really true. It's a process, but it's a beautiful process.
Yes. I love using the term we're on a journey of becoming. And it's not a quick fix, it's not a magic pill, it's a becoming, it's a process of becoming, and it's to me, that's what the plan of salvation is all about. That's eternal progression defined is becoming. And
Well, thank you, Michelle, for joining me today and like sharing your wisdom and your experience with us. I think it has been so helpful and just a great perspective. Before we leave, can you share with people how they can connect with you?
yes, absolutely. I have a freebie that is connected to the very first step of becoming intentional, and that is learning to create some calm. So, in this freebie, I share a little bit about some myths that might keep us stuck in survival mode, and then I teach a little bit more about the daily ground that I referenced here on this episode and give you an opportunity to get on a call with me and see where your next step is in becoming more intentional. So you can find that at Michele Reyes Coaching. And don't forget, Michele is spelled with one L. So it's Michele Reyes coaching.com/creating calm. And it'll be in the show notes, of course. But you can also find me on my personal podcast. It's called Becoming Intentional, where I share grounding and mindset practices for women of faith.
Intentional is just like it's the best word. And like
Love
even
it.
just saying it feels so empowering. And so I can imagine that the podcast with that title, you just walk away feeling empowered every time you listen. So thanks, Michelle. I appreciate you today.
Thanks for letting me be here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And we hope you will join us again next week. Have a good one. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.